Doug Flynn joins us, certified financial planner, co-founder at Flynn Capital Management. Merry Christmas, Doug, and I hope you contributed to the rise in spending that we saw. We talked about the MasterCard numbers earlier, and these are kind of the preliminary figures. I guess they were okay, right? I mean, we're up 3% or about that. So is this a good sign?
It is. Let me just jump to, if we do finish this week positive, by the way, that'll be the best, a 9-week run positive. It'll be the first time since 2004 that anything like that happens.
It's crazy,
so that's
right?
Quite
This
a record.
run in the market really is some run. I mean, we talk about it a lot. But yeah, right. Every single week, one after the other. And you think we got a little bit more to run there, do you? Or?
I do. I think that the trend is definitely behind you there. I think, the retail numbers are interesting. If you look into them, you see that apparel and restaurant spending was up big, and so overall people keep spending. When you look also, you find that electronics and jewelry were down, so that's interesting, but people are definitely continuing to spend, and even though those things were down year over year, overall the spending went up by more than 3%. I think it's people are feeling good, the market's up, their home values are up, they still have some cash on hand. And so spend, they continue. Now, whether or not that continues deep into 2024, the feelings are we might be a little stretched there. And if companies have overhired, we do have some caution signals for next year, but we'll see how that plays out when we get into next year.
Well, let's talk about next year a little bit. I'm going to use an Axios story that we read this morning as a way to do it, because it's kind of an interesting way that they put it. The point of their kind of year-end piece on Axios is that the economy might finally be getting back to something that resembles normal. 2024 economy could be shockingly normal, that we might have a situation where inflation's not going crazy, that the Fed, it's actually coming back a little bit. Fed's cutting interest rates, the stock market's doing all right. People, as you say, are spending a little bit of money. What about normal? That sounds boring, but we'll take it, I would think, if we're back there.
Normal would be a welcome change, to be honest with you, after the last couple of years that we had. I think you definitely had the pandemic. You had the inflation, the highest inflation we had in 40 years. That's coming down. You had wars break out. So, I would also add that we had two more than 20% drops in the stock market in the last couple of years. We had one right at the break of the pandemic in February, March of 2020, and we had one last year. So you also don't normally have two 20+ % drops in such a short period of time. So normal would be great if things kind of just sort of settle down. And we hear this a lot. Sometimes clients will say to me, hey, I think I'm going to wait till it's a better time or when things calm down to invest. And of course, by the time that happens, it's probably too late. You want to invest during the turmoil when things are a little bit cheaper. When everything is sky high, that's usually not the best time to start throwing a whole lot of money at the stock market.
Which a lot of people have been doing, and hence the gains that we've seen this year in the stock market. What would prevent us from having a, quote, normal year in 2024? What are you worried about, if anything?
Well, in the back of our mind, there's still some recession talks. The R word is kind of waning. I think even in the Axios story, they mentioned a year ago when they polled, about 50% of the people thought we'd have a recession within a year. Now that's down to 25%. Typically, when that gets down to almost nobody thinking there's going to be a recession, that's when one will creep in. And so you could have one. Now, if we have it and it's mild, then it's not that big a deal. Recessions are a scary word, but they're actually quite healthy for the economy to kind of work things through to right size. And there is some fear of that because some of the companies, as we said, have overhired. And if they need to right size their employment, then some people will get laid off. And that's a problem. And so that's where some of the spending starts to wane, and then the consumer starts to spend less. And then so you see some of that. But it might not be a huge recession. It might be very mild, and things get adjusted. And then you get more of and that still counts as a normal year, because every so often it's okay. It's normal to have a recession, as long as it's not a deep one. That's what we want.
I think it's interesting. I know you're not the most political guy, so I don't want to get too deep into politics, but I think we'll talk about this as the week goes on, that these numbers have been getting better and better. The stock market, as you say, is at pretty much a record high. Inflation's coming down. If you just didn't know anything about what was going on, you just saw the numbers, you'd say this president is running for re-election, has a pretty good story to tell about the economy. It's getting better. It's in pretty good shape. But either he's not telling that story very well, or this idea that people aren't feeling what the numbers show is out there as well. I don't know which one it is, but it's one of the two, I would think.
Yes, I think I mean, I saw him out there saying, hey, to the reporters, you need to start telling the story, the true story.
Right.
The numbers are good. Now,
by the way, he would be the one that would have to start telling the story. I mean, like, it's on him to tell the story. That's what I'm saying. I wonder if the administration is doing a good enough job getting their message out, or it's something else. I don't know.
I think because it's been a couple of years of turmoil, I think people, even though things are good and they look at their 401k balance and they'll see the December 31st statement when they get it in January. They hadn't seen it since September. That's when it'll start to kick in a little bit more to the people. But most people, if you poll them, think that things are not great.
Yeah.
But when you look, if they have some cash on hand, their job is relatively stable, the market's up, their home values are up, they're spending. I mean, what more do you want? So those things are all there. Next year could, though, turn into more not as good a year, and that's going to be a harder story to tell that things are good if things start to turn down a little bit. So,
yeah, especially if
that's the way it could play out.
Right. If you've had trouble telling the good story, then what happens when it's not such a good story? All right, Doug, thanks as always. Good stuff on all this. Doug Flynn on the economy.